We're all just trying to fill holes that our childhood left behind. Like many of you, I was on a quick road to burnout and was seriously thinking about leaving medicine just 3 years ago and was going to go into management consulting. Um, I came to the UK after struggling and seeing some major failings in the healthcare system in India. I came to the UK 6 years ago now in 2019, and worked my way into the training system in emergency medicine. Um, and very quickly learned that no healthcare system is perfect. I mean, NHS gets a lot of things right, the ethics and the principles and the benefits of practicing without having to think about money are huge. But I had to realize that it wasn't just down to me. It was part of the bigger system. Just the way in India it was down to the system. And so very quickly I started to look beyond the system and realized that there's so much more that needs to improve, beyond just who I am and where I am. And realistically, I started asking myself, how far can I push to make the impact and the difference that I want to make? And it was hard. It was day in and day out shifts without time to breathe, trying to do your best, trying to be there for people who need you the most when they need you the most. And it's a huge burden to bear. And most of us medics, clinicians, put ourselves here because we want to bring that difference to the world. There were really two questions. Well, there were really a lot of questions that I was asking myself, but two in particular, that I remember standing out. So one of them was when I had started prepping for getting into management consulting. I was looking at prepping my CV, and I was getting advice, and I was watching videos online. And there was something about the way a CV is different in the corporate world or in management consulting as opposed to in medicine, where we like certifications and experience and presentations and peer review and evidence base. Over there, they like to see what that translated into. And initially, I used to think it's very superficial and all related to business development. But the question that I couldn't answer very well was the so what behind every element on my CV. And that really led me to ask the bigger question of so what? Everything that I'm trying to do, everything that I'm achieving, everything that I'm working towards. So what? What is the impact that I'm actually hoping for? And I think up till this point, I wasn't really clear about the so what. I wasn't clear about the difference I wanted to make in the world, where I really fit in. Medicine seemed like it was fantastic, but I was really being ground down, and to the point where it no longer became a place where I could make the biggest difference or be my best self. And I don't know, tell me if you feel this way as well, because we come in with passion and purpose and wanting to make a difference and really start off the first few years driving towards something serious and something meaningful. And before you know it, you're looking back and saying, what happened over the last 2 years? That's kind of where I was, and finding that impact, finding what impact I wanted to make in the world is a really big question, is a challenging question, is something I'm still trying to figure out. So that was one thing that was going on. And that really made me stop and think, okay, if I'm going from medicine to management consulting, am I just simply jumping ship from one to another, still not knowing exactly what I'm heading to just as much? So that was one question that kind of made me say, should I leave medicine? Should I not? Beyond all of the other questions that so many of us have, anyways, this was the one big one. The second question was, how do I get there? So, say there's a different way to make an impact, but and a different kind of success or end result that I want to get to. How do I get there? And we were doing a really long anniversary trip up to Scotland, and I just had like loads and loads of driving time, 8 hours a day. I was driving and lots to think about and lots to contemplate. And I remember we stopped somewhere near Harrogate, and I just had to pull out a book pretty much like this and write down what I thought about at that point. And I was reflecting on who are the consultants that I really look up to, who are the people, maybe in any industry, any field, that I really like what they do. They like what they do. You can tell they're happy in their job, and they often famous, quote unquote, famous in their little niche circle. They might even be really looked up to, well published. And there were key three things that I identified, which I now have solidified into calling the zone of impact. There were three things. So let's take this one particular consultant, for example. She was an intensive care and emergency medicine consultant. She was published. She would talk on stage. She'd give keynote presentations. She'd be on various panels. She had a presence in the room. Like when she showed up, everybody turned and looked at her, even though she wasn't that tall or big or loud. But people listened to her. And there was a sense of purpose behind everything she did, so much so that you could easily just agree with the plans or ideas that she would suggest. And as I thought more and more about these examples, three clear domains came up for me. One of them was purpose and alignment with purpose. How do you find what that is for you? And that's really what the changes in the world that you want to make. And that kind of linked back to the previous question of saying, what's the impact that you're looking to make as well? The second thing was, once you've figured out where you want to make a change, how do you actually get into a place or a way of being able to do that? So first was your alignment with purpose, but the second was being able to influence things in a way that you could make a difference to what mattered to you, what aligned with your purpose. And there were two common ways in which I saw them do this, or like the people that did it really well. They either were in a position of power, but that in itself wasn't enough. They were also playing to their innate ways of influencing others and the ways in which they could make a difference, their way to communicate, the way to command the room, their presence. They probably had a natural advantage or like something really practiced or a strength, as Gallup strengths would classify it. But they did it intentionally. So there was positions of power and ways of influence aligned with their purpose. But also what really took them up a notch was the kind of equity they built in the world. So getting published, speaking on stage, being on YouTube videos, presence on social media, books, having them be referenced by other clinicians. These were all incidences where their work and their mission and their ability to influence was present even without them being in the room, if that makes sense. They were creating these small pieces of equity that were doing the job for them. And ultimately, they were in a position where they were looked up to, they had leverage, they could ask for what they needed to ask for, they could get special privileges. They didn't do it for that, of course, but those were all signs of them really being in their zone of impact, having found alignment between purpose, creating influence, and holding equity that did work for them and really helped them translate the time into so much more, and was the beginnings of the idea for me of how do you actually break free from this trap of spending your time for income, for impact, for making a difference in this world. And so that's what has kind of led me to where I am today. And the more I realized this, the more I started to understand that you don't actually need to leave medicine. You just really need to find your zone of impact. And as I started to find my zone of impact, I realized that medicine was within that. So my job in the emergency department was in line with my zone of impact. It was, for me, just a matter of how much balance there was between the way, so emergency medicine was just one of the ways in which I made my impact. So my purpose is to give clarity to people when it matters the most, when they need it the most, so that they can take action. And in the emergency department, I do that as well. However, doing that so much prevents me from being able to create equity and grow my influence. And reducing some time from there allowed me to build more time here And in the last 2 years, what I've managed to build in terms of equity and influence is so much more than I could have even ever imagined to be doing as full-time clinical practice, even in the next 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. Yes, that means that I have another 5 years till I become a consultant. But hey, I'm still in line with my zone of impact, still making the difference that I want to make. It's more fulfilling than ever. It's really given me back the energy to help other people find their zone of impact and create things that are changing healthcare from the inside out. Really going back full circle to helping fill the hole of a broken healthcare system that I suffered from, my family suffered from in India, and to be able to do that in a space that's aligned with who I naturally am is the best thing I could have ever uncovered. And I just want to kind of share that with you to say, this is what I call the zone of impact. These are the two questions that kind of got me here. And I want to share more of these sort of videos with you. So if you like this, drop me a comment, let me know. And if you want to hear more and listen to my frameworks and receive regular emails, there's a newsletter you can subscribe to down below, no obligation, but it's only for those who are interested in my kind of content. So give that a follow and let me know what you think. Also, the next step from this was really being able to share what I am about, what my purpose is, how I make a difference, so that I could have myself surrounded by people that cared about the same thing. In the next video, I can talk to you about that. All right, cheers.